And good day, good night. Welcome to this long-awaited show. 5 years in the making, Euro 2020, a year later, but here we are getting ready to give you our predictions, making Nostradamuses of ourselves. But Duane, first, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Kevin. I'm excited by the Euros. I actually was doing a little, but I started researching this show this afternoon when on the day of recording. I was, going into it, maybe hadn't fully embraced it yet, but then I started thinking about summer tournaments that passed and started to get excited and started to really get into the spirit of this thing. I'm not sure what we're going to see, but I'm excited to see it. A quick note to our listeners: we are pre-recording this before the Canada game on Tuesday, so we don't know the result of that as we're recording. So if this didn't turn out well, please take a time machine back and let me know so that I can appropriately give you the right level of excitement or despair. Okay.
Yes, this will be focused on the Euro, looking at the group stage, the knockout stage, and who's going to lift that trophy. Duane and I will give our predictions. We'll talk about the groups. We'll start with Group A all the way to Group F. Who's going to win the groups, a surprise, and of course we'll talk about who's going to be the third place winners of this thing. But before we start looking at each group individually, I have to give a little teaser to our friends and listeners of the show. Make sure you catch Duane's prediction for the group stage. Some of them will be surprising, as we all have a couple of surprises in our groups. What is your overall thought on this tournament, though, Duane? This is the second time we'll have a 24-team European Championship, at least a final portion. Is it aging well so far?
I still more in the 16-team format a little bit. It was always the hipster's choice, this tournament, in terms of comparing it to a World Cup, half the size. And a lot of people suggested, I think rightly suggested, that it was the better quality tournament overall in terms of every game was intense when you have 16. And you didn't have a lot of clear fourth place teams in the groups or a lot of clear first place teams in the group. When you look at was Group F, the final group there, which has the three powers in it and Hungary. That was a pretty common type of grouping that used to find in the old Euros. And if you're old enough and older than me even, which I know that sounds impossible, but if you're older than me even, you can remember when it was even smaller than 16 and people will say the same thing. But, we got to evolve. And it should be a lot of fun. And I do think, having watched, Euro 2016, which doesn't even seem like, we were doing a show. That's when we debuted the Daily Show, guys. Yeah. So that's a long time ago. When we did that, we were wondering how it would play out, and we did get some fun stuff with the lower team. Iceland beat England, and Iceland was a big story back then, 5 years ago. They're less so now; they're not here. But yeah, that showed you that and Northern Ireland was a good, wasn't just there to make up the numbers if memory serves as well. So yeah, there's something to watch here, and you get a lot of home nations in this, which I like as my heritage pops out. Lots to watch, lots to love. All the big clubs are here. There's a clear favorite, I think. We'll get to that in a minute. There's some dogs. It's good.
Iceland's not there. Kind of happy because that clap was getting on my, what.
Yeah, it was novel in 2016. It is not novel now. It is something part of Ultras Mix 95, as I call it in MLS. So
overplayed across the beautiful game now, this thunderclap of Iceland, but we won't hear it this summer, which is going to be fun. Let's start our preview show by looking at Group A: Italy, Switzerland, Turkey, Wales. 2 teams will move out outright, and there will be a third place team also maybe moving out of this group. Of course, we have 4 best third place that will be moving out of these groups. Let's start, Duane, with your 2 favorite in Group A.
I kind of went chalk here. I went Italy 1, Switzerland 2, Turkey 3, Wales 4 is how I played this group out. It is, I think, a better group than it gets credit for. I think Italians, Italians typically do tend to overvalue their possibilities, but in fairness to them, they have, won some tournaments. So maybe they're not, although they haven't won this tournament in a long, long time. Forever. No, just the once. Yeah. So it's not necessarily their gig, but yeah, I have the Italians on top of this group. I did go chalk with it. Switzerland, we joke. I made this joke a few times now, is 20th ranked, the 20th best team in the world always.
Yeah.
which would make them the 10th best team in this tournament, basically. So, they're good to get through, but they're not really probably likely to go deeper. Quickly on the other groups, Wales is a one-team team that has that one-player team, and that one player isn't, particularly a world-class player anymore. And
exactly. Well, it depends. World-class maybe against a couple of these teams, but the group is not that easy, and it'll be a mix. I'll let Duane finish his ranking, but yeah, it's Gareth Bale and the rest of Wales.
Yeah, and look, that's a bit disrespectful to the rest of Wales, but the rest of Wales is a team, similar to what we'd see here in CONCACAF, right, where you grabbing guys from the Championship and League One and stuff like that, and you're having guys have to step up and play above their levels. Guys that are bench players for Everton trying to be stars for Wales. It's difficult, but Turkey is the third team in this group. It's been a long time since Turkey's been in a major tournament, and there was a streak there through the 90s where they really were a team that you thought might be stepping up, and they do have a good solid league. So I'm kind of excited to see what they bring to this tournament. I'm the football geek in me is excited to see what Turkey brings, but show me, don't tell me is a story that we talk about a lot in this show, and I'll plug them in at third with a chance to go through as a third placer is what I'll do here.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I have it a bit differently, but that's the only thing interchangeable, I guess, if Wales and Turkey in this one. I do have it Italy and Switzerland. And by the way, I'll give you the visual clues at the end of my group stage, which team I do favored. And when we get to the knockout stage, we have neat graphics that will give you our predictions for both Duane and my predictions for the knockout stage. My group A is Italy, Switzerland. I have Wales in third and Turkey in fourth, just because I go with the known commodity, and I do believe maybe in that game, Wales and Bale might do have that one opportunity, get that goal, and it could be that difference in this one. So I have Italy, Switzerland, and Wales third, but not necessarily a great performance, and who knows? Maybe Wales won't even get of that group as best third. That's my prediction for Group A. Italy, number one of this group. Switzerland, second, just like you. But then I have Wales instead of Turkey.
There you go. Yeah, and look, third place matters. I always wonder before we move to Group B, and this is a good place to talk this quickly, is what kind of group you want if you're a team that is not necessarily favored. Do you want a group that has a real heavy favorite and then three that are kind of even, or do you want what sets you up best for a best third place? And that's the unfortunate thing and interesting thing, if you want to look at it that way, that you have to look at when you're looking at a tournament that has best third placers through. I wish there was a better way to do that, and I don't know what the better way is to either go 16 or 32. So.
Exactly. It's the only other way, which to me would be the only way, is you go to 16 and 32. If you don't have enough to go to 32, then it kind of means maybe you have to stay at 16. That is kind of like the conversation for me.
Yeah, you could, okay, quickly. If you wanted to stick with this, you wanted to have more teams involved, you could have a play-in round that you include as part of the tournament. So you go 32, but then this from like the top 16, the top 8 would qualify automatically based on some kind of qualifying or ranking system, and then you would have the next 16 teams. So you're at 24 still. Play each other to get to 16, and then you go the groups from there. But anyway, that doesn't visualize very well, so we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and that bracket is meaning a lot. We'll get later when we get to the knockout stage. We kind of want to have this, but also for a group, it's groups of threes don't work. So I'd rather have that than groups of three. That's the other thing. Yeah, 8 groups of 3 would have been terrible. So I guess I'll keep it that way. Let's move to Group B now. This is the composition of Group B. And I'll start this group, Duane. I have a big upset here. And that big upset is I do not have Belgium winning that group. I have Denmark, number 1, Belgium second, Russia squeezing in third, and Finland finishing fourth of Group B. That's my maybe biggest surprise of here. Denmark beating Belgium against each other. That will be the big surprise. And then, depending on what happens in the other games, I do believe Belgium is going to have a hard road later on in the knockout stage, and all because they'll finish second of Group B.
Yeah, I'm a little less cruel to Belgium than you are. That's good to have differences here. I went exactly chalk in this one, so I have Belgium, Denmark, Russia, Finland based on rankings. That would be very chalky. I do like the Danes though, and if you listen to Tuesday's show, when we did our dark horses, pardon me, I picked Denmark as my dark horse. One of my dark horses. I also picked Russia as a possible dark horse for a different reason, but I was being cynical with the Russian one, saying that maybe they were doing things that they should be doing.
Yeah. Just if you don't know, just watch the movie Icarus. That's what we're talking about.
Exactly. So that's why I said that Russia is a potential dark horse, because you just never know what they do. Denmark, I do like their roster though, and I have them picked as a solid number 2 in this grouping. Belgium has the injury concerns, and Kevin De Bruyne is the most common of those, but it goes beyond that in this roster. They are players that play in the very best clubs in the world, which means they played a lot, and that is something to consider. There is a thinking out there that this is a European Championship that might actually have a Greece winner, have a real rank outsider win it, because of that very fact that the players on some of those smaller nations have played less. So it's something to keep an eye on. But I did go complete chalk here. I do like the Belgians. When we get to the knockout stage, I'll tell you how much I like the Belgians. Maybe you don't know. Maybe I'm going to pick them to win. You don't know. I won't tell you yet. But I do like them to win this group.
Moving on to Group C now. Austria, Netherlands, North Macedonia, and Ukraine. Duane, what's your order in Group C after the 3 games? And is there a big surprise here?
Yeah, well, you picked a surprise winner of Group B. I'm picking a surprise winner of Group C. And that is to say that I'm not picking the Dutch to win this group. And that's, because of concerns I have with the management, with the direction, just the results of late. The Dutch, who didn't even make the last European Championships, last World Cup, I should say. They made the last. It's so hard to remember 2016, Kevin.
Yeah, well, even the World Cup feels like forever ago because it's 3 years ago, not 2. So there you go.
Yeah, it's just such a different feel for a summer tournament. We're used to them every 2 years as a rhythm, and to take that away anyway. So I'm picking Ukraine to win this. Ukraine is those Eastern teams are so hard to peg because we don't have a lot of access to the Eastern leagues. But what we can look at is how they do typically in these tournaments, which again, they're similar to Switzerland. The fact that they're not usually bad. And if you look at the last Euro, which I do remember Ukraine in, because they were co-hosts of it, doing decently in that European Championship and holding their own. So I do have them upsetting the Dutch to win this group here. Austria, I have at 3rd. North Macedonia, which is, in its first tournament. It's a very small country, qualified through the Nations League process, which I do like. If you're going to have 24 teams, I do like opening up one, which gives an opportunity for countries like North Macedonia to qualify.
That's how you learn, right? They come here to learn. North Macedonia is coming to the Euro to learn a little bit more about the beautiful game.
Yeah, and it's better than having, another team that's sort of just as mid-lane to kind of make up the numbers. I think this is more interesting. And, we've never seen them before, and it's good for them to be there, and anything that they do is going to be a bonus. I could see the Dutch completely crashing out of this group. I could see them, North Macedonia, it's hard to see them taking them out, but I could see them finishing 3rd. I do have them 2nd in my pick, but Ukraine is my winner of Group C.
And of course, here's again just to remind you who's in Group C, and I'll give my order. And at the end of the groups, I'll give you the visual cues of my order if you're wondering where's the graphic is coming in a second if you're watching us on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for taking a second and subscribing right now to our podcast and to our YouTube channel. It really helps us a whole lot. I do have the Netherlands on top of this group, but just by maybe a point, like maybe one of those 4-3-3 groups, you never know. Ukraine 2nd in this one, Austria 3rd, and North Macedonia 4th. Maybe Austria good enough to get out of this group as a best 3rd, but we'll see that in a second. I do believe the Dutch will do just enough to get out here, and then who knows, it might be gravy. It might be the Dutch having success despite their manager. That could be possible because, like a famous wrestler he once said, which is Macho Man Randy Savage, "Oh yeah, cream rises to the top." And maybe Dutch cream, they do have good cheeses, so,
There you go. I got my Macho Man t-shirt. I got to wear that tomorrow. Then maybe after hearing that reference, maybe I'll make another wrestling reference when we talk about France. You know which one I do there.
Well, yeah, it's a good one. It's a very tall reference too. All right, let's go to Group B, Group D. I'll start, and I'll let Duane do his amazing Group D ranking in a second. Mine will be very different. I do have England number 1, Croatia number 2, Czech Republic number 3, and Scotland last of this group. Of course, I give a lot of credence to England. I understand Croatia has a good team, but I think the absence of Rakitic and Mandzukic will have a big say in the results of Croatia. I think the Czechs are better than Scotland, and I think Scotland are just happy to be there. I think it's that, hey, we made it. Yay, let's celebrate. Next time, let's talk about maybe performing. That's my Group D.
Yeah, well, Scotland has never made it out of the group stage, so at a major tournament. Of course, they haven't been in a major tournament since I was a very young man. So that tells you something right there. Second reference to my age in one podcast made both by me. Okay, I'm getting beaten around the bush. Where I'm putting this, in every tournament, there is one team that kind of steps up and surprises you. That's inevitable. World Cup, Euros, doesn't matter. There's always a team that they go, whoa, and they make usually, a round of 16 or something. You didn't expect them. They were a rank outsider. They do well. And it's hard to pick that, obviously, because they're rank outsiders for a reason. But there's also counter to that, one team that you expect to be amazing, that you pick to win, go deep, all that sort of stuff, that ends up usually finishing last in their group and crashing out. It's been France a lot in the past. France has that all the way up, all the way down to them. They've crashed out of a few tournaments. Italy has also done the same thing. This is a long-winded explanation for me to say that I have picked England to finish 4th in this group. Okay, now think.
I just did a spit take, but it was tea. It was Earl Grey, just to make sure.
A bloody big deal if you remember those commercials. England is very good, and I think that they're going to be very good in Qatar. But I wonder whether they have started to believe their own hype, and the pressure of playing all of their games on the island are going to get to them. And the reason I picked them above Scotland is because they are playing that game on the 18th, which is going to be such an emotionally rough game for the Scots. The Scots are going to be so up for it. It is their European Championship. They know they're not winning this tournament.
But if they can get a point, or if they can beat England, that's their trophy right there.
Oh, absolutely. And you can't blame them. And, I was tweeting today how, I have a little Scottish blood in me. So it's not that, I'm mostly English, and I'll probably cheer for England in this tournament. But the Scots I have a soft spot for. And if you look at my DNA, I'm pretty sure the mutant gene's in there somewhere. I've got a little Scot in me, as most people that have British heritage do. So, I'm not opposed to them because I don't live there. I don't have to live the rivalry in the same way that people over there do. But I can tell you this, that is going to be heated that day. It will be either the best day to be in London in history or the worst day, depending on your perspective and your belief on what crowds and a lot of hairy men in kilts are. And perhaps hairy women in kilts. I don't want to discriminate.
Exactly. Don't discriminate. A little bit of both. Yeah. So everything in between. And I think that's the beautiful thing of the beautiful game at 2. Can you imagine, though, the outcry if they lose all 3 games at Wembley? Oh, my Lord.
Absolutely. And look, I can be completely off here. And as I say, I'm not cheering for this to happen, but England has a history. And if you're going to lean into it, you either go all the way up. Well, I'm either going to pick them to win the Euro, or I'm going to pick them to finish last in their group and to be like the lowest point in their history. It's staying away. It's staying away.
Exactly. It's coming home. Well, it should. It's home because the final's at Wembley, right? So it's the road to Wembley. So it's staying home. Well, we'll see if it does. And we're gonna have this song stuck in my head, but we'll see if I don't have another language version stuck in my head.
So that's my rationale, which is not all that logical. I'll be completely frank with this, but sometimes when you're I've learned, because I've made 1,000 of these over the years. Well, not 1,000, but a lot of these over the years in these summer tournaments, and you can't go chalk with them. You just.
It's like the NCAA tournament. There's always one upset, and if you don't put one upset on your bracket, you're not paying attention.
Yeah. So this is where I'm going with this, and it's fun to talk about. I've talked a lot of time about who I finished 4th in this group. I haven't actually given you the order yet.
Go ahead.
My order is Croatia, Czech Republic, Scotland, England. I think the Czechs are going to be interesting. I think I'll foresee, or I guess they're the 3rd seed in this group, but of teams of that level, I think they're a little better than you think, and they're kind of like Turkey in the sense that they're back after a long absence. So I'll be interested to watch that. Croatia. I talked about it on Tuesday's show as well, how we picked them as both overrated, but also don't sleep on, if that makes sense. To be overrated, you have to be pretty good in the first place. And I think they're kind of in that level. And if England does, in fact, ruin its bed in this tournament, then they are the logical team to finish first in this. But yeah, the story of this will absolutely be that Scotland-England game. And if my group standings play out, like, half of the people watching this tournament are going to be pretty sad, and the other half are going to be laughing.
Yep, I imagine. And a lot of teams will be happy that England doesn't make it out of the group too, because then it makes the path maybe an easier path for a couple of teams, because England is a contender in this one. Dare we say a top 3, top 4 favorite in this one. Group E, Poland, Slovakia, Spain, Sweden. Quickly, I'm going to give you my order here. No need to belabor the rest of the group. Spain, Poland, 1 and 2 here for me. Then Sweden over Slovakia. I think Sweden has more depth, and they will finish over Slovakia. Slovakia is there. It's a country in the up and up, and there's a couple of players from Major League Soccer, from Grey Goose, a couple of others playing for Slovakia, and I think it does raise the level of MLS, and it's fun to have players from MLS mainly playing for Finland and Slovakia, so it'll be interesting to see them play for their national team. But Slovakia still, they have an uphill battle in front of them, and I think they're going to finish 4th of their group.
Yeah, this is the first group that we've run into that we have the order the same. So we'll leave it at that. Spain, Poland, Sweden, Slovakia is the order I put it. I could see the Swedes and the Poles flipping to the spots there. I think Spain's the clear favorite.
And let me just go with my Group F, because I just put it on the screen also. The Group F. France will win Group F. It's the name of the group. It's F, right? Group France. It's their group. They're going to finish first. Portugal second. That's my surprise. Germany third and Hungary fourth. No, I did not put Hungary third. Come on. I am not that crazy. But I do believe Portugal might beat Germany and get that result and finish second of the group, which is better than the last time they won the Euro. They finished second. So they finished third. They actually won the Euro. Does it mean that if they finish second, Duane, they're going to win the Euro again? Well, no. That's exactly it. I don't think Portugal's going to repeat, but I do feel they'll surprise Germany.
I have Portugal third. I went France, Germany, Portugal, Hungary. I mean, Hungary not picking in fourth would be insanity, but you never know. I think, having said that, this is a true group of death. Often when we talk about group of deaths, we're exaggerating. This, my friends, is a group of death. This is insane that they would all draw together. You could see any of those 3 teams being the favorite in any other grouping if they put them in there. In fact, do that little exercise. Put Portugal in every group and see if you're not putting them near the top, right? Absolutely. And I do think Portugal is actually probably better than they were in 2016 in terms of the overall roster. But this is a tough draw for them. I do think that they will probably get through as a third place team if they do finish third. So they'll be in the same situation as they were. And I'm sure that they'll take solace in that if that happens. And, I think in some ways, as long as the 3 of these teams take care, and the poor Hungary too, like this is the worst draw for them, like not just because they're not getting through, because these other 3 teams need to beat them up.
Yeah. So third place finish. Yeah. The only way it happens is if they beat each other so hard, and there's a couple draws here and there, surprisingly, which could happen. France, Portugal a draw, then France, Germany, or Portugal, Germany a draw, then the group becomes wide open. That's the only way, and then Hungary gets a surprise win against someone and sneaks in. But maybe that's the danger with this group. Is there a potential that because it's all headliners almost, and then Hungary, that they actually hurt each other, and we see a low amount of points in this group because the group is composed of so many good teams?
Yeah, well, that's what I said when I talked about it when we were talking about Group A. I mentioned, like, what kind of group do you want? Do you want like a patsy and 3 good teams? Then you beat the 4th team up and you have a good goal diff. But if you get some draws amongst each other, you have less points as the third place finisher, right? So it is always sort of a balance there, and I'm not too sure what the answer of that is. If they kind of share the points, you're right. The third place team might be in trouble and might fall out of this. But again, God help you if you drop any points to Hungary, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you don't deserve to move on. That's for sure.
Yeah, and look, it's not just because they're outsiders in terms of the last 50 years of history. Mm-hmm. Major tournament they made was 2016. That's the track pants tournament that we're talking about here. He's retired, by the way. But anyway, because I think it was 53 when he played.
Yeah, I think it was 43. So he would have been 49 this time around. And yeah, there's only like so many goalkeepers that can play at this age, and there's only one Gianluigi Buffon, and he's not even here, so that tells you a lot.
Yeah, precisely. So, look, we haven't really talked about France in this as our group winner and as what I think is the far away clear favorite in the tournament. I mean, that's not rocket sciences for me to say. And the reason we haven't talked about it is basically for entertainment purposes. Purposes. We know France is good. This isn't 2018 where France was interesting to talk about because they were young and up and coming. And, when I did pick them to win the World Cup, and, I think of all the summer tournaments I've ever picked, I think that's the first time I ever got it. So let's be honest here.
And the team didn't get worse instead. Like they just maybe got better. So.
Yeah, so France is favored, and Germany is Germany, so they're an interesting team always, and they are even more interesting now is because they've added that little bit of occasionally they do weird stuff. They lost 6-0 to Spain in November, so it's they can do some weird stuff there too, but they also are still Germany, so that's not kid ourselves.
No, exactly.
So yeah, but Portugal, I guess we can move on and talk what we have as our third place finishers now, but I do have them through as one of my third place finishers, Kevin.
All right. So you have Portugal as one of your third place finishers. Let's go with that. I have Wales, Sweden, Germany, and Russia because I do have Portugal in my top two. So my third place qualifiers are Wales, Sweden, Germany, and Russia, which to me, it makes a whole lot of sense, but to each his own, and it's okay if we don't have the same thing. That's the beauty of this tournament is we don't have to agree on everything, and we can disagree on a whole lot of things. And here's my third place finisher on the screen, by the way, if you're wondering. So Wales again, sneaking out of the group, Sweden, Germany, and Russia.
Fair enough. And let's be honest about something here, guys. When you're predicting what your best third place finishers are before there's even been one ball kicked in anger, you're just guessing. This is the purest of all guesses, really, right? You're trying to figure out goal differential and point. No, there's no way to handicap this in any real way. But that said, when you're doing a prediction, you have to do it when there's a 24 team tournament. So my 4 teams are Portugal, Sweden, Russia, and just for sentimental reasons, because I had them in third, I put the Scots in because that would be fun.
If that happens, Duane, I'm buying you dinner.
There you go. Thanks. Maybe I could even come to Montreal for the first time in 18 months.
You know what I'm going to serve you, right? A big, big plate of haggis.
Ooh, boy. Let's go England.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll break down the knockout stage. Duane's knockout stage, my knockout stage. We'll look at the matchup of the round of 16, the quarterfinals, semifinals, and we'll finish with our finals prediction and who's going to stand in the confetti when July comes around. We'll be right back after this short break. You are listening to Euro Today with Duane Rollins and myself, Kev Laramee. Follow us on Twitter at SoccerTodaySPN. Subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube page, youtube.com/sports podcasting network. And we're back on Euro Today. Kev Laramee with Duane Rollins. Time to predict the knockout stage. Time to look at my knockout stage predictions. Duane, we'll get to yours in a minute. They're different. Mine's a bit more predictable. I would say chalk. A bit more beauté, joli. You can use it in any other French adjectives if you want. Here's my predictions, and Duane, you'll understand why French makes a whole lot of sense if you can see my predictions, because of course you see who my winner is here. No big surprise, okay? But the surprise comes in the other matchup for me, Duane. So I have, of course, Denmark-Sweden in round of 16 because of the way things unfolded in my group stage, and I favored Denmark there. Italy-Ukraine, I favored Italy. So Denmark-Italy in the quarterfinals. That's a fascinating matchup in the semis. And then France-Wales, I have France favored here. Croatia-Poland in the other one, which is an amazing matchup. I don't think Poland can beat Croatia, but it'll be a good match. And then Italy and then France-Croatia in the quarterfinals. A rematch of the 2018 World Cup final. That's a heck of a quarterfinal to watch.
No, 100%. Yeah, and any of these. That's the great thing about the Euro is once you hit the knockout stage, there are no bad matchups, even in the round of 16. In the round of 8, it's great. That's what the 16 team tournament, those quarterfinals were all like. That's a quarterfinal, that could be a final, and that's a lot of this when you look at matchups how they play out.
Exactly. Now let's look at Duane's predictions on this side of the bracket, all the way to the quarters for this. Belgium, Portugal is one of Duane's matchup in the round of 16. He favors Belgium. That's a heck of a matchup too. Belgium, Portugal as maybe the first game of the round of 16.
Yeah, and if you're the Portuguese, and if this is in fact the route that they go, that would mean that they would have probably didn't get a result anyway, or lost to Germany, France, and then Belgium in the to go out, and that would be quite the ride of like high level. I guess that would be a little karma for how they ended up winning in 2016, I suppose. But yeah, that would be a good. Like I said, that's if Belgium, Portugal. If we were to say right now that was a final, everyone would be like. Okay.
Yeah, they could envision that. Italy, Netherlands is Duane's other round of 16 matchup. He does favor Italy, which would mean we have a quarterfinal of Belgium and Italy.
Yeah, and that would be a fun one too. You'd have like the historic favorite versus the favorite of now, in a lot of ways, and I think that would be really compelling because you would. The narrative writes himself. Like, can Italy step up after having a bad cycle? Can Belgium get it done and get to a second semifinal in a major tournament in a row and really establish himself as a contender? Yeah, that would be a good game.
And if Belgium doesn't have good results and still get there, the pressure of will this golden generation fail will start to build up, and that narrative will shine through also. And maybe we'll start to do comparison when it comes to that part of the tournament. France, Russia is Duane's round of 16 matchup also on that side, with France being his favored winner here. Czech and Poland, Czech Republic, an upset against Poland, and then France, Czech Republic in the other quarterfinals on that side.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying here through this bracket is that I'm picking the Czech as my true dark horse, even though I didn't mention them on Tuesday when we did the show, but as it worked out in the prediction, if this were to happen, and that would be partly because what happened in the way that things shook up is you got a Czech Poland round of 16, which meant that one of them is going to the quarters, and that will also happen in summer tournaments. You will get the one. Well, it happened in the Champions League this year, and the team that came out of that side of the bracket won the damn thing. So there you go. Not that I'm bitter, but
a little bit, but it's okay. It tastes good. You would have a drink without bitters, it wouldn't be good, Duane.
Yeah, that can't make an old fashioned without some bitters.
Exactly.
There you go.
Salty tears. It's just good. It adds a little bit of a taste to it.
But alas, that's the beauty of these tournaments is you might get a quarterfinal like that, which would then lead to one of these teams going deep into a tournament that you didn't expect at all. And it would be boring if there wasn't a team that you didn't expect. So yeah, I'm the Czechs.
By the way, we did these predictions on UEFA.com, as you can see on your screen. And we do invite you also to do that tournament predictor and tag us on social media at Kev Laramee and at 24th Minute. Who's your prediction? Who's going to win your part of the Euro? Let us know. Let's continue on the other side of the bracket. For me, Spain-Russia as one of my round of 16 matchups. So that's a fascinating one. I do favor Spain in that one. And then England-Portugal, Duane. That's one of my round of 16 interesting matchup. Quite a fascinating game, but I do favor the Lions here. I do think England can beat Portugal at the round of 16, and that will prepare a quarterfinals of Spain and England. That is amazing. Do you like little cucumber sandwich, or would you like some tapas? Fascinating questions.
Yeah, I've tapas are always nice. They're usually free too, so that's kind of fun. So there you go.
Where? Because I'm going there.
Well, the way that tapas work, I've been to Spain a few times, and if you go to most like small bars, not necessarily the big tourist places, but if you go off the beaten path, they'll often bring you a plate of tapas for free because they're trying to get you to stay to drink. It makes sense.
Yeah, because wine is expensive. So there you go. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all logical. Like they're giving you 20 cents in food, like little pieces of like fish or something, or like there's little like fried cheese balls that they give you, which are awesome. And
that sounds very good right now at lunchtime. Now let's continue with my other quarterfinals on that side. I have the Dutch and the Germans, Netherlands and Germany in my round of 16. I have the Dutch pulling an upset and eliminating Germany in the round of 16 in Joachim Löw's last tournament in charge of Germany. And in the other one, I have Switzerland and Belgium, and the ultimate insult to injury, or injuries maybe in this one, Switzerland eliminating Belgium in the round of 16 for a Dutch and Swiss quarterfinals.
And that would be a very that would mean one of them's going to the semifinals. So they'd be very happy with that. My Belgium's obviously on the other side of my draw, but as I've talked about them already. But not how I have it. So let's have a look at mine.
Yes, exactly. Spain, Scotland on one side, with Spain being favored by Duane, Croatia, Germany. Germany eliminating the 2018 World Cup finalists.
Yeah, and look, Croatia, as we said, I don't think they're bad, but I don't think that they're where they were 2.5 years ago now, or 2 years ago now. How long ago was it? Long time ago.
It's
2018.
Three years ago.
Heavens. Anyway, yes, they're not there anymore. So it goes out here. That's kind of how Croatia Germany would be a battle of two teams that we just don't quite know what to put them on, but it would set up a quarterfinal of Spain Germany, which and one of those ones that looks like it could be a final in any other year.
Yeah, no, exactly. Then in the battle of the blue and yellows, so Ukraine versus Sweden, Ukraine moving on against one of the dark horses of Duane, Denmark, beating Switzerland, and moving on to the quarterfinals for Duane's Spain, Germany, Ukraine, Denmark. Let's continue here. Denmark favored by Duane to move on to the semi versus Spain over Germany. Spain, Denmark, the winner goes to the final, and Duane has Spain making it to the final of Euro 2020.
Yeah, and look, when you look at how a final plays out, if you were to look objectively at the bracket that I created, the random bracket that I just created, that gave Spain a pretty, not easy, but easier ride to the final than what you're going to talk about when we get to the top half of my bracket here. And that's a big part of this, too. And you look at the Danes who I did pick as my dark horse on Tuesday, and clearly I put them in the semifinals here, so I'm backing that up with that prediction. But when you hit a team like Spain, which has the resume that they do, which has the history that they do, which has some recent results. I mentioned the 6-0 victory over Germany in November, on backing them there. And look, if they were to get to a semifinal, you would be hard pressed to pick against the Spanish to make a final from what would be a weaker side of the bracket here. But you got to take advantage of those draws. You beat who's in front of you, right?
Let's finish your bracket while we're here. Belgium, Italy. On the other side, France, Czech Republic. Belgium beats Italy in that quarter, according to Duane. France beats Czech Republic in that quarterfinal, setting up a Belgium-France quarterfinals. Speaking of rivalry, after England-Scotland, this might be the second best thing in this tournament.
And look, this is Belgium-France, I think, would be a lot of people's preference for a final. That would be, you've got the geographical rivalry there. You have they're both the top two on paper teams in this tournament.
Mm-hmm. You also have the aspect of the bully versus the other one, right? The French always makes fun of the Belgians in a way, and it would be the chance for David to slay Goliath in a way.
Yeah, it's the smaller country because their big neighbor. I mean, I think we here in Canada can relate to that a little. So that's what you're having here. But look, I picked Belgium in this matchup, so I have a Belgium-Spain final. And that's not to say I don't think France could win that game. I clearly do. Part of the reason I didn't pick France, to be quite blunt with you, is to be a little contrarian, because if we both picked France, that would be kind of boring now, wouldn't it? But look, basically the major difference between our two brackets is that you think the Belgians are really going to struggle, and I think the Belgians are going to go to the final. So there you go. There's a major difference. And in both of those narratives have every equal possibility in my mind of being right. And that's the funny thing about Belgium right now. And until you do something, then you are always going to be questioned. And you know what? If we were having this conversation, if Soccer Today existed in 2008, we would have been having that conversation about Spain.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go. Belgium-Spain is Duane's final. So Belgium eliminating France in the semifinal, qualifying for the final at Wembley, Belgium and Spain. And Spain will be standing in the confetti, according to Duane. Rollins a first major tournament win since 2012. This would be for the Furia Roja.
Yeah, look, picking Spain's not exactly going way out on that limb, is it? But it is a little out in the limb. I'm kind of halfway out on the limb by picking Spain. I think that they're underrated. I think that they are not talked about enough in this tournament. I think we're sort of sleeping on Spain because they were so dominant for so long. We kind of all got bored of them. And then they struggled a little bit, as often happens with dynasties they fall hard. And that's what happened in the World Cup in Germany when the Germany won, I should say, the World Cup in Brazil, that Spain crashed out of, and they didn't have a great Euro either following that. But I do think that this new generation is starting to step up. You look at the results at the youth level, and they're unrivaled. And it's just such a great program, and they're a great team. And hey, why not? Why not Spain? Is what I would say here.
How do you say that in Spanish? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you probably could figure it out quicker than I could.
I was gonna say te quiero Taco Bell, but that's not something else.
I heard Taco Bell, but anyway, no, I don't think Spain and Taco Bell. That is definitely not being served to you in a Spanish bar.
Well, if it's free, maybe, or maybe they have to pay you. Anyways, that's a different topic for another day.
Look, last thought before I let you do yours, but Belgium, if they make a final and lose it, to continue my Man City analogies here, there's obviously a Man City player that leads them, so there's a certain, it would be a bad summer for Kevin De Bruyne, but
a bad few weeks. I think that headache will last for a long time.
Yeah, well, but then you have to be objective about stuff sometimes, and making a final is an accomplishment. It's just hard to realize it at the time, and it would be something to build on. I would say that if Belgium does go to the final and just fall up a little short, then I might even go so far as to say that they're the favorite for Qatar. But 18 months seems like it's in a second, but it is a long time in football, so we'll see how that plays out, and we have lots of time to talk about that. But I would be very interested to see Belgium-Spain as a final. I think that would be, having a new team in there that you could possibly win. We've seen new teams in there, like we saw Croatia in the World Cup final in 2018. But anyone really think they were going to win that game heading into it? I didn't, because it was just, it's hard to see. Once the underdog makes the final, it seems like, and Belgium seems like still an underdog because it's such a small country. And I don't think we should discount that or not point that out, because it's a major accomplishment for them to be this good.
The depth, but the depth is not as strong maybe as other teams, and because of injuries we'll see that tested for sure.
Yeah, they are so good though, so I would love to see Belgium go deep. They're fun to watch. So yeah, that's my final.
So I don't think, I've already established that I don't think Belgium is going to go deep, so let's look at my predictions. Quarterfinals on. Denmark, Italy moves on. Italy, surprising everyone, makes it to the semi of this tournament. France, Croatia, another tournament, another matchup between the two, but the same results. Les Bleus moves on to the semi. On the other side, England dominates Spain. No conquistador, por favor. England all the way to the semi against the Dutch. The Dutch will eliminate Switzerland in that surprise quarters, and we'll have England, the Dutch on one side, Italy and France on another. People will think it's 2000 all over again, but no. France will make it to the final. England will make it in the other one, further than 1990, and in that final, it'll be France, it'll be England, the Battle of the Channel, la bataille du Canal Anglais, and la bataille de la Manche. And who's gonna win la Manche? Les cousins, les Bleus. Allez les Bleus, allez la France, à la maison.
You gonna watch the final at the Plains d'Abraham?
Well, that could be hilarious. Mocan on one side, whatever the name was on the other side. Allez les Bleus, and then everyone would be confused. They're like, well, we're both wearing blue, so.
Google 7-Year War Americans right there. Anyway, yeah, I think England and France would be something that would be the dream of most of the pretty much all of the English language broadcasters. That is their dream final.
Can you imagine? Because first of all, the ratings in the States will be big. The ratings everywhere will be big because of France and how they're able to be a team that galvanizes support across multiple places, and also because they're good, right? When you're the defending world champion, you have a certain following too. So that would be an amazing final. And if that happens, I'm going to have to be sober, unfortunately, for the game. But that night, regardless of the results, don't ask me what happens after I'm done working.
You're going to experience this Euro in the same way that I've only worked one major tournament ever. I for the Score, I was contracted out to run their live blogs during the 2010 World Cup, and it was a different experience for me than most World Cups. I enjoyed it. It was different. I wasn't able to enjoy the patios in the same way that I hope to do this time. So it is part of the joy of these summer tournaments, and I'm glad that I had the experience. Is what I'm saying. I'm working on, not to make this personal too much, but I'm glad I had the experience of doing one, because I knew what it felt like to constantly be working and to have the excitement and the rush of working in a major tournament. And as some guy that always dreamed of working in sports, that was a thrill. I'm not going to lie. But I also enjoy, the freedom of being able to get your work done for 2:00 in the afternoon on a Thursday and then go, oh, you know what? I'm going to go up into Little Italy.
I'll have some days off. So a couple of days of 3 games a day, I won't be working. Trust me, these days I'll be like, where's the best place to catch a North Macedonia match in Montreal? Is there a patio for North Macedonia fans? Because I'm coming.
There you go. Yeah, should be fun. And look, the closer we get to I'm starting to get a little excited, Kevin. Not that we're going to talk about this in detail because we just don't have the bandwidth to do it. Is the Copa Americas. I think I'm going to watch that as a pure fan without having to worry too much about breaking it down. And I'm looking forward, particularly to see if Messi can get one.
I was going to say, because he's running out of time. If it ain't this one, which one is going to be?
Yeah, I'm not going to hide my allegiance on that one because of Aguero, and I kind of have a soft spot for. I want to see Messi win a major trophy. We've seen Ronaldo win one. I want to see Messi win one. Copa America is happening. I will pay attention to Argentina in that, and I will watch it as a fan. We will talk about it a little bit as stories pop up on Euro today, but I do think hope you all understand that. We have full-time jobs, so there's only so much time we can dedicate to this. So yeah, but I'm excited for this now. I'm also getting nervous, Kevin, because in an hour from when I'm talking right now, Canada plays a game that if they somehow don't win, they are going to go out of the World Cup. So that's where my head is at the very moment.
And by the way, if you want to hear Duane and I talk about that Canadian game, you can subscribe to our Patreon feed at patreon.com/sports podcasting network. That's where Duane and I have the Two Salted Soccer Podcast, a premium podcast for Canadian soccer fans, where we will break down that game later on. Of course, while you're listening to this, that game already happened. We're just not going to tell you the score right here because we'll talk about it on the Two Salted Soccer Podcast. But as always, if you want to follow Duane on social media at 24th Minute, myself at Kev Laramee, and this show at Soccer Today SPN. We hope you enjoyed this Euro preview show. Thank you for subscribing to our podcast, making us feature in all the top soccer podcasts in the States, in Canada, in Europe lately because of Euro Today. That's all because of your downloads and your subscription to the show. So thank you for subscribing everywhere you get your podcasts. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube page at youtube.com/sports podcasting network. And as always, until next time, for Duane Rollins, I'm Kev Laramee, and we wish you a great soccer.